Welcome to the Real Estate Investment Nomad podcast. I'm Natalie, and today we're going to chat about how to finance your home in South Africa. We are with Kobus Nel here, and we're going to go over the buying process, what it takes to get lending, financing here, or a mortgage as a local or as an expat that wants to invest in South Africa. And in this case, we're in Cape Town, so we're going to be talking about that with Kobus. Thank you for being with us.
It's a pleasure, Natalie. Thank you for having me.
So we were chatting in the last time we met about, there's so many people coming to Cape Town to move, to buy, to invest. It's growing quite a bit, and the real estate is moving quite fast as well. Would you share with us, well, first a little bit more about you, and before we go into the actual process that will be the application and what it is like to buy here?
Yes, what can I say? I'm an absolute property fanatic. I'm a property investor myself. I have been in the industry since 2002 or 3, somewhere there, such a long time ago. I started off as a property valuer for let's call it a non-bank home loan company, SA Home Loans. I valued a few properties for them, and eventually I ended up working for them. I worked for them for 13 years and then started my own bond originating company. So, I've seen it all. I've went through the difficult times and the good times, and this is a changing industry constantly. Rules are changing, criteria are changing from banks. But you're absolutely right. At the moment, we see quite a bit of applications coming in from people living abroad, people investing here, people moving here, people retiring in South Africa. So I think it's an awesome subject, and I'm just here to assist and tell the people a little bit more on finance in South Africa.
Okay. So for this podcast is oriented to buyers that want to buy internationally. Let's go through the different paths that there is, like for the financing. Can foreign buyers buy property here and get financing for it? And how much will be the bond, like the percentage to the value of the home?
Yes, definitely they can buy here. And I'm going to give the guidelines or the current criteria. But a bond originator's job is to present a file to the bank and color in the pictures and explain the client to the bank so that we in some way mitigate the risk in getting the best offer possible. So we submit to all the banks at once, and most of the banks, the current ruling is if you are a foreigner, so you're living and working abroad, and you're buying in South Africa, you can only get a 50% home loan. Okay, so 50% of the purchase price must come from country of origin.
Mm-hmm.
So that is a Reserve Bank rule as well. So currently the rule of thumb is if you live abroad, work abroad, you can only get a 50% home loan.
Okay. But it's possible to get a loan then. That's with your country's proof of income.
Yes, definitely. Look, there is exceptions to the rule. For instance, most of the banks in South Africa do not want to give you a loan if you are self-employed overseas. Okay. And the main reason for that is we've got very little information to work on, and we're not sure. In South Africa, if you are self-employed, you have to present financial statements. Now, that's more or less the same all over the world, but we can validate the document in South Africa. We can check if the company is really registered. We can check if the accountant who signed off the financials is registered with a governing body in South Africa. So for that reason, the banks are careful to finance foreigners that's self-employed overseas, because we're not sure of the document presented of the current situation of that company. Is it true? Is it valid? So that's their stance on it. Self-employed individuals, not the rule is no, but if it's a professional, a doctor, engineer, architect, it's possible, because the risk is mitigated in the huge deposit that is given by the individual. So I don't want to say not at all, but that's the current criteria. No, if the foreign applicant is self-employed, most of the banks will not consider.
Okay. And for the local, let's say somebody was from South Africa and they move abroad and they're thinking to reinvest here, and they're nationals from here, their income it's abroad, that will apply as well?
So no, that changes. They are a South African citizen. So based on their ID number. ID number is an identification number in South Africa. I'm not sure about most of the countries will have some sort of identification card. Okay. So it's called an ID card in South Africa. And based on that number, the banks can draw what we call here a credit check. So it's a check on what other commitments do you have in the country, and each client will have a score. And the score, I think it starts at 570 and it goes up to 800. But the scoring system of the different credit bureaus in South Africa is different. So don't focus too much on the score. I'm just trying to say everyone starts on a score, and based on your how you pay your other accounts and how you pay off certain commitments, your score will increase or decrease. So if you pay late, you will get a negative impact on your scoring. So because we can actually pull that information from your ID number, you will have a scoring within the bank. So you will automatically be able to qualify for more. And you can apply for 100% banking in South Africa because you're a South African citizen. So the fact that you're now currently working overseas and earning your income overseas does not make it that you now only can get 50%.
Okay.
You can still qualify for 100% banking. Okay.
That's amazing.
Based on the fact that you are a citizen. Unfortunately, the banks do know that you work on a contract overseas and you earn a way higher income overseas because of the currency that you are earning there is way more than here. So let's say, for instance, just an example, you are a teacher in South Africa. A teacher working for the government might earn 27,500 Rand a month. But in China or in the UK or wherever they are now, they would earn, let's call it, I don't know, 2,000 pounds, 2,500 pounds, 3,000 pounds. I don't really know what it is. And if you do the conversion, it amounts to like 60,000 Rand. So it's 3 times the amount that they would earn here for the same job. So now the banks are saying, well, if you were to come back to South Africa, you're buying your house here, so it's sort of your intention to come back. You are not going to earn the same money. And therefore, we need to take that into account, because on 60,000, you qualify for 6, 12, 18, 1.8 million. But on 20,000, you only qualify for 600,000. So now we're giving you a loan based on your income over there, but you are, with all intentions, coming back to South Africa. And remember, any home loan is a 20-year term agreement. So the bank must keep in the back of their mind, is this client going to pay for 20 years? But if he comes back in 2 years because he lost his contract overseas, something might have changed in the visa or that country where they are, his view on expats or people living there, they have to go back to their country. All of a sudden, the income changes. So for that risk, the bank would normally say a 80% or a 90% loan. So if you work overseas, I would say the rule of thumb is you must at least have a 10% deposit.
Okay.
If you want to buy in South Africa. So
that's really good that you guys finance 100%. Usually we haven't seen that, let's say in the US, a long time, unless you're a veteran or a special, or in a special program. So that brings me to the question out of curiosity. So South Africans that live in South Africa, work here, can finance up to 100% of the property?
yes, they can actually finance up to 105 or 108% of the property.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
If you are a first-time buyer only. So you only get this privilege of more than 100% if you are a first-time buyer. Even if one of the two applicants is a first-time buyer, you can get 108 or 105%. Good. So why do they give more than the actual purchase price? That's because in South Africa, and I'm assuming it is everywhere in the world, there is a fee to do the transaction. So in South Africa, you have a bond attorney and you have a transferring attorney. Now, the buyer pays for both of those. The buyer needs to pay both of those attorneys, the fee. So let's say you buy for R1 million. Your transfer fee is 20,000 Rand. Your bond fee is 20,000 Rand. This is just estimates. I haven't checked if that's correct, but let's go with it. So that 40,000 needs to be paid. So if you're a first-time buyer, the bank will give you a loan of R1,040,000.
Okay.
In order to cover those costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good. That's really good.
Yeah, that's why I think the market is so extremely active at the moment. That's if you're going to rent in South Africa, you need the going rate currently in Cape Town. I'm not talking of all the provinces, but in Cape Town, you need to put down 2 months worth of deposit, and then you need to pay 1 month rent in advance. So if you are going to rent for 15,000 Rand a month, you need to put 50,000 Rand down as a deposit and another 15 for the month in advance. So you need to pay 45,000 Rand just to rent a place. Where with the bank, they will give you that 40,000 and there's no cash flow expense immediately. So people want to buy. Unfortunately, not everybody can. And one of the biggest reasons is your credit score. There's some people, maybe for the like, there was an explanation. It might have been previously when they skipped a payment on their cell phone bill, or something happened. Life happens, and then if your scoring is bad, you will not get the 100%. So the score, your CV, your individual CV or score, plays a huge role in what percentage loan you will get if you are South African. Okay.
Yeah.
So they start off with the score. The second biggest thing of all, the score is important, but the biggest thing is, of course, affordability. Okay. We need to prove affordability. And then the third pillar is the property, the value of the property as the security for the bank. Yeah.
Okay.
So both of those, all three of those are very important. I would say the second one is the most important, affordability. If I can't prove affordability, I can't give you a loan. It doesn't matter if your scoring is excellent.
Yeah.
We have to prove affordability.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So based on what you mentioned, the closing cost for transferring a property and all the fees, will that be ranging from 4 to 8% based on what the bank is willing to give you, or what is the average closing cost? So people can consider those at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of looking at it. So we've got an actual guideline that shows exactly what the cost is. You can get that on the calculators available. I even think there's a calculator on my website that shows transfer costs and bond costs, because there is a third cost involved in buying a property, and that is called transfer duty. Now, transfer duty is payable to our SARS, which is the tax for everybody in South Africa pays tax to SARS. Okay. And that only comes into play for any property more than 1.1 million. Yeah. So if the property costs more than 1.1, the third cost will come into play. Now, just a quick example that I can, on a property of 4 million rand, okay? You can now do the conversion to whatever currency you want to. But on a purchase price of 4 million rand in South Africa, taking a 100% bond, so you're taking a 4 million rand bond as well, the total cost is 287 plus another 70. That brings you to 350,000 rand. Now, if you divide 350,000 rand, 350 into 4 million, you will get 8.75%.
Okay.
Yeah. Now that of the 350,000 rand.
So in this case, for dollars, we're talking about $252,000. A property for 150,000, you'll be paying about 8% of that, 8.5% on closing costs, and that would be about $22,000.
See, that's very much in line.
Yeah.
Very much the same. The tax portion, the transfer duty, that third cost that I was referring to, that kicks in after 1.1 million, that alone is 217,356. So that's the biggest portion of this massive cost that you are incurring. But if you buy directly from a developer, which I see quite often, especially with foreign investors, they would buy from a developer, there's no transfer duty.
Okay, so for new properties, no transfer duty.
No transfer duty on new properties, only a second-hand property buying from an individual to another individual.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Good. So do you see more people wanting to buy new construction versus resale, or?
I won't say the costs is important and might be a factor when you make your decision, because especially on a property worth 4 million, if you can save that massive 200,000 rand costs, it makes almost sense to buy there. But also important is what would I want to say that's important? Oh, the costs of building is very expensive in South Africa at the moment.
Okay.
The actual labor and bricks and water, it's quite expensive. So they calculate to the T, so that property, you might get more for your buck if you buy a second hand for 4 million than you buy directly from the developer.
Okay.
They build the property slightly smaller these days. In the olden days, you had big rooms, and now they try and compact everything. They'll fit the 3-bedroom house into 111 squares, where you might get a 3-bedroom house in the olden days that's 250 squares or 200 squares. Entertainment areas these days quite attractive, especially for the beautiful views we have in Cape Town.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody wants to see a view of the mountain or the sea, but then you're going to end up in a flat, in an apartment.
And do you also offer financing for new construction as well? Is it different terms, or is it very similar to the process than to buying from a resale? Is there any
Very similar. Very similar. Well, basically exactly the same. The only difference is that the developer has to, because there's nothing there yet.
Yeah.
So you're buying something that's not been built yet. The developer needs to submit his product to the bank, and they must approve the development upfront.
Okay.
And then there will be inspections as such. So if you submit to a bank and the development was not approved yet, you won't get the bond.
Okay.
But luckily, I mean, any developer in South Africa, they know that process. They do submit, and we have extremely good workmanship. Yeah, it's strict. It's not easy to become a developer in this country.
Okay. So yeah, that's really good. So there's some regulation in place for new development. Not like in other countries that somebody just like says that they're a developer and they start building, and then sometimes they don't finish or they're not compliant. Here at least there is some protection for the buyer. Will this be similar also in the case for like I think you call it fractional ownership or title, which is the condos, having a condo, an apartment? Is that the same process as buying a full house on the lending side?
Yeah, no, not really. Remember that third pillar I was referring to earlier as the security for the bank to give you this loan, a 20-year agreement. And with fractional ownership, they're basically not the owner, or you are not the owner,
No,
almost like a share block kind of thing.
What I meant was like I think you guys we call it the condos, apartments. Like in a building, you get a one floor.
Okay.
I forget what they call it here, but it's a condo.
Sectional title, maybe?
Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Sectional
Yes,
title, no ownership. So in that, the condo itself, like like you're saying, a big building, the buying process on the lending will be similar, or are there any other requirements?
No, exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
No, exactly the same as a full title. Some banks do request the actual financials of the body corporate.
Okay.
Just to make sure that the body corporate's financials is in good state. But each bank, they normally send out a valuer to the property. So if the building does look terrible from the outside, maybe it hasn't been painted or whatever, the valuer will raise that as a concern on his report and say, well, unfortunately, there's something doesn't look great here. And then the bank might ask for the financials because there's always an explanation. Maybe they're going to start painting next month, or there's special levies that has been approved by the body corporate, and they are going to attend to it. So, but actually, the process for the client is exactly the same. The documents that you submit to the bank, because if we go back to that 3-pillar thing that I'm talking about, the second portion is to prove affordability of the client. And if I approve that, the documents remains the same.
Okay.
It's for the bank to go to the security and decide whether they're happy with the security or not.
Okay.
So therefore, the documents remains the same because I just need to prove affordability for that client.
Okay. Makes sense. And then when it comes to the timeline and how long does it take from when a buyer says, I'm ready to buy, they select a property, let's say they're pre-approved and the property is compliant and fits the criteria. From that day until closing date, how long is that transfer from, the closing process? Like, do you have a timeline?
No. Yeah, so there's certain points, and if you look at the whole process, from signing an offer to purchase, you're making an offer through an agent to a seller, and the seller accepts that offer. Normally that takes 5 days just to accept the offer. Now, here in South Africa, I would say the longest period you need to obtain a bond is 14 days. If it takes you longer than 14 days, there's definitely something wrong. These days, especially with the market being so active, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 offers on the same property in a row.
Oh,
and they will then say, well, you only have 7 days to get a bond. And they will sort of say up front that you need to be pre-approved. Otherwise, the seller is not even going to accept your offer. Okay, so pre-approval is very important. I don't like using the word pre-approval. I would rather say it's a pre-assessment.
okay.
Because the pre-approval that you can do online actually doesn't have so much value because it's based on the numbers that you are putting in there. A pre-assessment, the documents and the application at least came to me that works with this daily, and I've looked and I've went through the documents. So there's more value to a pre-assessment from my company. I don't know what the others processes are. Because I actually went through the documents. I actually looked at a bit of the documents. I didn't just go on what you said. Okay. So that's important. And then it goes into the bank. Some of the banks can approve you the same day. You'll get your approval the same day. But from my side, when I inform a client that your deal has been submitted, I normally say, please allow 3 working days. Okay. So within 3 working days, you will get offers from all the banks. And then we'll start the negotiation process. We will then go to the one bank and say, listen, but this bank has offered this, and this bank has offered that, and this is your client. The client is actually banking with you. The client prefers to bank with you. Can you better your rate? So that's the negotiation. Can take another 2 days or so. But while we're negotiating, the bank will most probably send out the valuer to go and value the property.
Okay.
So that 2 days while they're checking the property, we are doing the negotiation. So I would say from start to finish to get approved for a bond, 5 days. Okay. Now you accept the bond. Once you've accepted the bond, the bank will instruct a bond attorney. And that attorney basically works for the bank and works for the buyer.
Okay.
He's working on behalf of the bank for the buyer. And that bond attorney will then go to the offer to purchase that was signed in the beginning to see who is the transferring attorney. And he will then phone the transferring attorney, and the 2 attorneys will link.
Okay.
Now, in South Africa, I don't know if it's across the world, but here, most banks ask for a 90-day notice period before you cancel your bond.
Okay.
So the seller basically, once his house is sold, informs the bank that I'm going to sell and I want to cancel my bond.
Okay.
So for that reason, from the 2 attorneys starting to chat, takes another 90 days.
Oh, okay.
And then it transfers into the new guy's name. Now, luckily, sometimes the seller has already informed the bank a month ago when he placed his property on the market. So I can't say it's always taking 90 days. It can take 60 days. If there is no bond over the property, it might be as quick as 50 days or 15 days. I know once in my life I actually got it registered in 11 days. Because everything was just there, and I think it was it just worked out that way. So anything between, I would say, to be conservative, 5 days for the bond, 2 weeks minimum, because when it goes to the deeds office in South Africa, the deeds office can take anything between 8 to 12 days.
Okay.
So 8 to 12 plus that. So it's basically impossible to register tenant shorter than 8 days.
Okay.
So let's say 20 days to 90 days as a safe space to work in.
That's good. I didn't know that they had to notify the bank with 90 days, the seller, so in case there's a loan in that property. It's pretty good
Yes.
information. Okay, awesome. So now everybody can plan accordingly based on the time frame. And the attorney, the second attorney that you mentioned, it works for the seller, or is and then one works for the buyer, and then they're the ones with the transaction. Well, I'm sorry, for the bank and the buyer, and the other one is in the seller side.
Yes. So everything, any money, always, please, this is so important. And I think for foreigners, for South Africans, for everybody, you
Yeah,
always pay money to the attorney, the
attorney.
transferring attorney. The transferring attorney is actually the one that determines the speed of the process as well, because he needs to do a lot on his side. Okay, he needs to get the seller to sign. He needs to pay the agent. He needs to actually receive the money from the bond attorney. From the bond attorney receives the money from the bank. Then he transfers the money to the transferring attorney's account. Okay. So the transferring attorney is the important one, and all the money goes to the transferring attorney.
Okay, so
So it's very
will he play like a role as an escrow for all the funds coming to one place? Will you call it like a notary in here, or it's not a notary figure in South Africa? Because at least in
No, look, every attorney does have a trust account. They can't pay it into a current account or something. It must go into the trust account. There is a governing body that checks these trust accounts. They have insurances for if money gets lost. So yeah, the trust account is very hard to obtain. You must be an attorney. You must have a FFC. Must be registered as a conveyancer. And conveyancing is a specific section of becoming an attorney in this country. You know, it's a specialized field. You have to go and say, okay, I want to specialize in conveyancing. Then you become a conveyancing attorney.
okay.
You can't just, yes, but I am qualified as an attorney, so I'm going to operate as an attorney for conveyancing. It's actually it's a very specified field, and a big industry in this country, massive. And we've got extremely good attorneys in this country. I believe our conveyancing process might be long-winded and slow, but in my opinion, extremely good, well-governed, and looked after, and things are happening in the right way. We don't lose some of our property, you know.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You don't get lost in the space. Amazing. And then
Yeah. No, property is gone.
for my last question, and maybe you might work on this, or it might vary by municipality, city, and probably neighborhood. The property taxes that we pay yearly, I mean, in the US are very high. So that's the property that you pay, the taxes that you pay to the government to have your property there. Is there, I don't know what it's called here in South Africa, but is there a yearly property tax that we need to pay to the government to have our property here? I don't know if there's a different,
Yes.
but what's the
Yes,
percentage
definitely.
an average? Maybe you as the numbers person will have that into consideration when it comes to the numbers, because is that included in the monthly fee that the buyer pays, or is it just paid by the buyer once a year?
Okay. So, yeah, it's got nothing to do with the bank. So the bank's installment is the bank's installment. And what the bank will say is you have to insure your property. Okay. Insurance is compulsory. And their valuer will determine the replacement cost of that property.
Okay.
Okay. So remember, even if you buy a property for 4 million Rand, the land portion is not part of the insurance. So it can be that the replacement cost can be lower than the actual value of the property. A replacement cost does not equal market value.
Okay.
So the insurance part will either be done by the bank that gave you the loan, or you can get external insurance, no problem. But the bank's interest must be noted. not interest that you are paying. It must just be recorded that you still owe the bank money. If the house were to burn to the ground, it must be built. The security must remain the same. You
Right.
can't now build a smaller home. Security must be the same. So the tax portion goes to the local municipality or the provincial municipality, whichever one it works in your area. And that is determined by the value that their valuer have placed on your property.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's every second year they update their valuation roll. So they will do a new valuation on every single property in the area. So for instance, right now, yesterday, I got my new valuations on 2 of my properties.
Mm-hmm.
The one has actually came down in value. Brilliant. So my taxes will decrease on that property. And the other one has increased, which made sense. Remember, it's not like they come out to the house and physically inspect. They work on data and they adjust it accordingly. So it's not a very accurate thing saying that my municipal value of the property is 3 million, but you are now asking in the market for, you want to sell the house for 4.5 million. It doesn't necessarily mean that the agent are like inflating the price, because the municipal value is just a sort of a guideline. It's very seldom it is extremely accurate.
Okay.
Because they're not sure of how much you've done inside the house or renovations or upgrades or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but be that as it may, we pay monthly rates and taxes.
Okay.
And when you get your municipal bill, you pay for sewage, you pay for water, and the section up there it will say rates and taxes. So on a 4.5 million rand, depending on the area as well, but on a 4.5 million rand, we pay 2,600 rand a month.
Okay.
Divided, well, I don't even know where the dollar is these days, 16 or 17. But let's say 10.
$100 per month. Okay.
Yeah.
160.
So it's not very expensive. According to me, it's not very expensive. And of course, in the different provinces, it changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's aimed at the value that the municipality placed on your property. That's how they determine that figure.
Oh, interesting. So it would be for those in the US, 19, almost $2,000 per year. Like if you had to do the math to allocate those. And how big is that property for 4.5 million? Like, is it a full house, 3 beds, 2 bath, or how big is it?
Yeah, that is a 300 square meter house. Meters, important to note. So it's quite a big property, I would say.
Yeah.
It's not massive. I mean, but houses in Cape Town are slightly smaller than houses in Joburg.
Okay.
The houses in Gauteng, you will easily find a 500 square house, 600 square house, 1,000 square house.
I want one of those.
Yeah, there's big properties that build bigger because the plots are bigger.
Yeah.
You can get earth of 1,500 square meters. Where in Cape Town, especially the newer areas, you very seldom get an earth bigger than 595. It's less than 600 squares. So the properties are a little bit smaller over here. So 300 would be considered a above average size home.
That's really big for the US because usually our homes are like maybe 110. It depends on the size and where you are. And for like a home like the one that you mentioned, like it's 4.5 million rand in the suburbs of Chicago, probably that would be 2x that, at least double. And the property taxes will go from $2,000 a year to $20,000 a year. So it's a big difference. It's 10x the tax price for on the size that you mentioned. So it's like 300 square meters, which about 8,000 square feet. That's an interesting number. So you save in property taxes in South Africa. Awesome. These are great examples, and thank you for giving us so much detail. I think many people will take this math and apply it to the the local area they're looking for. I'm sure things will vary by municipality, but this is a great start for understanding lending in South Africa, the numbers, some examples that are real, and also your expertise. What's your website?
Pleasure.
How can people find you, Kobus?
So my website is www.promortgagesa.co.za. Yeah, please WhatsApp me, send me voice notes. I love what I do. I honestly do love the whole industry very, very much. I'm always keen to help. And this is a beautiful country. And as you can hear now, that's the reason why it's so popular for foreign investors, because you can buy so much with your money. It's absolutely, a 10 million rand, which for us is an extremely high figure, is not as much for you. With the dollar or the pound, the rand isn't a very strong currency at the moment.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. No, it's absolutely, I think, a good time to buy in South Africa. Prices are still decent, and the dollar, euro, and pound are very, you get a good exchange rate at this moment. And hopefully it stays like that for a bit until people are like, okay, I'm ready to buy. And
Yeah.
then our whole team. Thank you again, Kobus. It was a pleasure chatting with you with all the information you gave us. And for everybody else, we'll have Kobus information on the description below, and you can contact him directly. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us on the Real Estate Investment Nomad podcast. I hope today's episode has inspired you to explore new horizons in global real estate. Remember, the world is full of opportunities waiting to be discovered. And with the right insights, you can turn those opportunities into successful investments. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us bring you the best content possible. Don't forget to follow us in social media for more resources and updates. Until next time, my friends, this is Natalie Salas, encouraging you to think big, invest globally, and transform your real estate journey. Safe travels and happy investing.